Okay, all right. Shabbat shalom. We are back. We are going to continue with our look at the triennial Torah portion. Pick up where we left off. We were off last week because we were enjoying our new addition to our family. But we're back. Maybe you'll hear some little baby sounds in the background. But we are going to continue. We're going to look today at, let's see here. Today we're going to be dealing with Exodus chapter 8, starting at the 20th verse, all the way down through 9 and the 35th verse. We're going to look at where we are in the back and forth of Moses and Pharaoh and deal with some things that we may be able to discern from the text. We want to, as always, be able to kind of see, what spiritual significances we can find within the scriptures. At the same time, we want to also deal with the an underlying principle that we derived from the Torah portion this week, being the idea that we don't want to be the same, right? Don't be the same. Don't be the same, right? We're going to get to that. We're going to get to this idea, right, that we see within the text. But first thing we're going to do is read a little. Let's see. We'll go through, let's see. We'll start off just reading the rest of chapter 8. Let me pull up the verses here. Let's see here. Okay, we are in Exodus 8, starting with the 20th verse. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So let's go ahead and read. We'll start at 20 and then we'll go ahead and talk about it once we've read. Okay, so let's see. Go ahead and read nice and loud from verse 20.
Exodus 8:20. And Yahweh said to Moshe, "Rise early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh as he comes out to the water, and say to him, Thus said Yahweh, let my people go so that they serve me. Or else, if you do not let my people go, see, I am sending swarms of flies on you and your servants, and on your people, and into your houses, and the houses of the Mitzrites shall be filled with swarms of flies, and also the ground on which they stand. And in that day I shall separate the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, so that you know that I am Yahweh in the midst of the land. And I shall put a ransom between my people and your people. Tomorrow this sign shall be." And Yahweh did so, and thick swarms of flies came into the houses, into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Mitzrayim. And the land was ruined because of the swarm of flies. Pharaoh then called for Moshe and Aaron and said, Go slaughter to your Elohim in the land." And Moshe said, "It is not right to do so, for we would be slaughtering the abomination of the Mitzrites to Yahweh our Elohim. See, if we slaughter the abomination of the Mitzrites before their eyes, would they not stone us? Let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness, then we shall slaughter to Yahweh our Elohim as he commands us." And Pharaoh said, "I am letting you go. Then you shall slaughter to Yahweh your Elohim in the wilderness. Only do not go very far away. Pray for me." And Moshe said, "See, when I leave you, I shall pray to Yahweh, and tomorrow the swarms of flies shall depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. But do not let Pharaoh again deceive, not to let the people go to slaughter to Pharaoh." And Moshe went out from Pharaoh and prayed to Yahweh. And Yahweh did according to the word of Moshe, and removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. Not one remained. But Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time too, and did not let the people go.
Okay, so want to go back here, go over a few key points. First thing we want to deal with is the fact that we talked about this a little bit before, but when we see the directive given to Moses to share with Pharaoh, we also always have to understand that there's two key components to this situation over here. That not only are we talking about letting my people go, right? But we have this idea of serving Yahweh over here, right? So we're talking about not only freedom from the clutches of Pharaoh and Egypt, but and everything that goes along with that, right? The idea that Pharaoh being the master, being the owner of this people, but also we remember the transference, right, of ownership, and also the service that is then rededicated to the Most High, right? And so a key component to this whole situation with the freeing of Israel is, again, not only this idea of leaving Egypt, but also being attached to the Most High, right? So again, we see this over and over again. Let my people go so that they can serve me, right? Because right now, we look to people, Israel, Israel serves, they serve Pharaoh, right? It's not even, it's Pharaoh's who they serve, right? Pharaoh, and he doesn't want to relent. He doesn't want to let the people go because he has, this this free labor, and these people that again are connected to him. And so now we see that the Most High is going in there with Moses and making this request. Now, another thing that we see, not only is Moses making this request over here, right? It is a request, request, but there's also a demand involved in this, right? So it's a request, even though it's a request, he's not asking because there's an or else right here. We're looking at this 21st verse, or else, right? Let my people go so that they may serve me, or else, right? If you don't do it, something bad is going to happen to you, right? And so,
But there's
huh?
there's not really a choice.
Well, I guess there's a choice, but there's only one correct choice, right? There is a choice, but there's only one right choice to make, right? So I think when we look at this, one of the things that we have to kind of remember is this: there has to be the Most High at any time could go and just take whatever He wants to take, right? But there has to be a surrender here, and this is the thing. He wants for Pharaoh to actually surrender his control over Israel to the Most High, and so we see over here with this 21st verse where he says, "Or else, right? If you do not let my people go, then now I'm sending the swarms." And so I wanted to kind of think about a little side note, as we deal with this idea over here, because when we look at Moses, who is indeed the deliverer, right? It's in his name, the idea of rescuing from water, right? He is the deliverer of the people. And so Moses also is a picture. He's a picture of Messiah. He's a picture of Messiah and what Messiah has done and is doing in you, right? And so when we look um, at Moses and we see how he speaks to Pharaoh, and then we look at Pharaoh, who being a picture of the adversary, a picture of not only the adversary but also the carnal mind. Both of these things, which are enemies to the Most High and righteousness, right? And so when we see over here that Moses, as he speaks to Pharaoh, the things that the Most High has decreed on behalf of the people, for the freedom of the people, right? And like we said, he must he must let the people go, right? He must give in to the decrees of the master. Um, and so when we think about this now, when we think about what's going on, we see again this picture of the deliverer who is requesting of a forfeit of power over the people. And so when we think about this again from a spiritual perspective, this is something that we must do in our own selves, right? Within our own selves, with as the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, you know, comes and dwells on the inside of us and strengthens us, empowers us move forward in the Most High, that Spirit gives us the strength and the power and the ability to speak against and make demands over that which once controlled us, right? And so I wanted to look at a scripture over here. I wanted to pull up. Let's see here. First Corinthians chapter 9. First Corinthians 9. And 24. So go ahead for me and read starting at 24. It just I believe it just goes to the end of the chapter there.
Do you not know that those who run in a race indeed all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way as to obtain it. And everyone who competes controls himself in every way. Now they do it to receive a corruptible crown, but we for a incorruptible crown. Therefore I run accordingly, not with uncertainty. Thus I fight not as one who beats the air, but I treat my body severely and make it my slave, lest having proclaimed to others, I myself might be rejected.
Okay, very good. So when we look over here at First Corinthians 9 and 24, it says over here that, let's see, they do you not know that those who run in a race, if you're running in a race, right, you're running to get the prize. Everybody's running, but somebody receives the prize. But the people that's all running, they all want it. Everybody wants the prize, right? So you're in the race, just not to say, yeah, I ran in the race.
Well, that's what I did.
Well, okay, well, you just, some people don't go about things in the right way, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But
I wanted to finish
the
the race.
idea that the apostle is bringing forth over here is the fact that you got in the race so that you could get the prize, get that prize, right? You're actually trying to obtain the prize. Now, I guess we could potentially think about it in the sense of a marathon where the prize really is to actually finish, right? Because it really is this hard, this grueling thing that you're going through, and you just want to make it to the finish line. So I guess for our purposes here, we can say that is winning, right? You've made it through the race. But even still, thinking about it in that way, you're playing in order to win. But some people just want to be in the game and think that that's enough, right? Some people just want to be in the game. I don't care about winning. I don't care about finishing. I just want to be in the game. I just want to participate. And so, you have these people who when you think about the idea of, because there's a difference. There's a difference between when we think about, people, talk about who the people are, right? I'm not one of those people to just sit over and just look at somebody and just because of their physical characteristics be able to know that they're the people. Right? Because even if you are the quote unquote people, if you never attached yourself to Messiah in a genuine way, then guess what? You're not the people, right? You're on the outside. And so when we think about the idea of running this race, right, with the thought of winning the race and receiving a prize, you know, you got to do all of the things that's necessary in order to get you to that place. And so when we look at this verse over here, he says, run in such a way as to obtain it. Like, don't be out there just playing around with the thing. Right? Don't just be, you know, have your little flashy racing suit on, just so somebody could see you in your racing outfit. Yeah, matching everything, right? With the wristbands and the headband to match. Right? You not just in the race so that people could see you. You in the race so you could win. Run in such a way as to obtain it. It being the prize that you get once you finish. Verse 25, when he said, and everyone who competes controls himself in every way. King James says, and every man that strives for mastery is temperate in every way. I want to look at this here. We think about this idea of striving for mastery. If we just thought about it in just as simple terms of what it says over there, the idea of striving, because I'm pretty sure in the King James, striving for mastery is all one word. Let's see if I'm right. Let's see here. Let's go to this. That's verse 25. Yes, that's striving for mastery. This is here. Agonid zom aha, whatever. I had this Greek. I can't really. Zom ahi. All right. The idea to struggle, literally to compete for a prize. So even when we look at this word that means to struggle, it's the idea of competing for a prize is incorporated in that. And so it's not just about the motions of it, right? But you want to get to the finish line. You want to obtain the prize. So when we think about this idea of Moses, the deliverer, Pharaoh, the captor, the possessor of Israel, where Moses is speaking to the captor to cause him to release Israel. And again, thinking about the spiritual significance in terms of the deliverer being the spirit in you, right? Speaking to your carnal mind and demanding things from your carnal mind. And so again, when we think about this idea of what the connection over here that we're seeing over here, every man that strives for mastery is temperate in all things. Everyone who competes for the prize, everyone who struggles and competes for the prize and contends with an adversary for the prize, who fights and labors fervently for the prize, it says those ones are temperate in all things. What that mean? What that mean? Those ones is temperate in all things. Self-restraint, right? Self-restraint, contained, temperate. And so when we fight with the idea of winning, we then are able to exercise self-restraint. And so when we think about what are we talking about, self-restraint from what? Well, we're talking about the carnal mind, right? We're talking about the spirit man dealing with the carnal mind. We're talking about the spirit in us speaking to the our carnality and our flesh and saying, "Let my people go, or else something bad's gonna happen to you." Right? It's not about, can you please let my people go and I'll see what happens. If you don't, like, it's about the deliverer, the spirit man, making a declaration and a proclamation of, you need to be doing what it is that I want for you to do, and there's no if, ands, or buts about the situation.
Isn't it something I was thinking about is for Pharaoh to accept the terms as he's accepting defeat. He's accepting,
Right.
He's surrendering his rights.
Right. And so for Pharaoh, being the epitome of carnality, pride, he can't just so easily and readily uh relent, right? And we see that he doesn't, right? But the picture that we see is that we have our carnality, we have our flesh, we have our carnal mind that does fight against these things, right? But again, from the spiritual perspective, we're speaking to that carnal mind and we're saying what we want for that carnal mind to be doing, right? And so again, if we keep on looking at this, verse 25, we got these people who sit up here and they go through great lengths to obtain these crowns that are going to they're going to die. The crowns, they're gonna they had, for them, they literally were getting like these little crowns made out of like vegetables, like tree branches and things, right? Where it looks really nice at first, but it's this thing that's going to fade and die and be dead. But Paul is giving you this saying all of this because the thing that he wants for the people to sit up here and strive and fight for, with the idea of winning, is this incorruptible crown. This thing that we're going to obtain that will never fade away and that will never wilt or wither, right? But is eternal. And so even if we were just going to think about it from the standpoint of, I'm doing this thing that has these everlasting consequences connected to it, that in and of itself can be the motivation for us to just, give our everything that we got in order to, these people sit up here and put themselves through all of this all types of things just for the accomplishment. Just so they could sit up there and have their little cases full of their accolades and trophies and things. And then one day they'll be able to sit back and be like, yeah, have people over to the place and be like, you know what I'm saying? That's over there whenever I was such and such. And I beat, all the greatest people in the world right over there. That see that little trophy right there. Right? Just for accomplishment's sake. Of these things that they're going to die. They're going to fade. It's going to get tarnished. Records is made to be broken. I mean, at the very least, you could say you was the first one to do it, but then somebody came after you and did it better than you did. And so when we think about even just from a carnal perspective, how, that can be the motivating factor for these people to sit up here and do all of these things for these corruptible things. But we aren't talking about corruptible things. We're talking about incorruptible things, right? We're talking about this incorruptible crown that won't never fade, right? So he says all that and says, therefore, I run accordingly. He said, I run accordingly. I run with the idea that when I win, I'm going to win this thing that's not going to fade. Thus, I fight not as one who is shadowboxing the air. He's fighting a real fight. That's what he's trying to say. He's fighting a real fight. He's not just fighting the air where there's no resistance except for air and the resistance of your own muscles or whatever, right? He said, thus I fight not as one who beats the air, but I treat my body severely and make it my slave. Right? And so when we talk about this idea of, again, basing this on the picture that we see with Moses and Pharaoh, where Moses speaks to Pharaoh and is telling them, he's making his demand of him, I need thus and so. And this is what it's going to be. And then if you don't let it be so, like what I'm saying, then this is what's going to happen to you. Right? And so the idea over here that we're talking about here, what we're bringing out is the idea that with dealing with our flesh, you're not going to sit up here and make adjustments for your flesh and carnality. You're going to tell your carnal mind what you're going to do, and then that's what's going to be done in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, right? And so we can see this from a spiritual perspective with Moses. When he's going in there, he's saying, let my people go or else. And that's what you got to be like when in terms of your carnal mind. Because, when we sit up here and if we say that Yeshua is our master, then your carnal mind is not your master. Right? So you got to do those things which are pleasing to the Most High. You got to be doing those things that your new master is calling for you to do, not your old master. Right? Your old master don't have no control over you anymore. Well, of course, unless you let him. But again, that brings us back over here to what we're looking at is that we have to put our body into subjection. You have to put your carnal mind into subjection. You got to let your carnal mind and your flesh and your carnality know what you are going to be doing, not the other way around. And again, we see that with Moses going in there, and big picture, we see, here Pharaoh's not saying okay, right? But the idea is that it's a fight. It is a fight, but you win. It's a fight and you don't relent, right? Moses could have went over there and asked 2 times and then was like, then that's it.
I already asked him twice. He's not going to do it. So.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess that's it. I asked him 2 times. I guess that's it. Right? I guess I'm done now. No, it's a fight. It's a race. It's a thing that there's pushback. Again, you think about, you're not here beating the air, right? You're throwing blows and you're dodging blows, right? You're taking blows, right? But you're fighting in such a way, again, that you win the fight. And so I just wanted to bring that out, because when we look over here, going into this interaction that we see over here, it just causes us to think about how our mind should be as when we speak to the carnal mind inside of us. And just like this, let my people go, or else something bad is going to happen to you, right? And so what happens when we go down? Let's go back over.
I was going to say that's kind of like how what I think it was Paul, he said, that if your hand offends, cut it off or whatever.
That was the teacher of Paul who said that.
Yeah. Goodness.
If your eye offends you, pluck it out. Yeah. I met someone who did that.
Oh, please stop. It was crazy.
In real life. Yeah, they was crazy, but the thought, right, is there, right? We have to be able to get to the place where we are in the process of removing those things which are contrary to the Most High, identifying those things and removing those things, and not allowing those things to be the pharaohs in our lives, right? Because again, when we have these things that we submit our will to, you're making a master out of that thing. You're making an idol out of that thing. You are sinning. That's just sin, right? And it don't even gotta be something that's this wicked thing, but you're making it wicked because of the fact that you've put it over top of your master. It could be playing video games, right? Which is like a neutral thing, right? But when you take any neutral thing and that neutral thing that you're doing is causing you to lessen the amount of time and energy that you give to the Almighty, right? You are in violation, right? Okay, so let's continue over here. Back to the verses. All right, so let's Think about verses. Okay, so first of all, 21, we see the consequence. The consequence is swarms of flies. Swarms of flies is the consequence on you, on your servants, on your people, into your houses. Right? The house is going to be filled with swarms of flies. It's going to be on the ground upon which you stand, all over the place. Right? But what I wanted to think about is verse 22, where it says, and in that day I shall separate the land of Goshen in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, so that you know that I am Yahweh in the midst of the land. Not only that, 23, and I shall put a ransom, or I shall put a difference between my people and your people. Tomorrow this sign shall be. And so when we think back to, what's this, plague number 4 with the flies, when we think back at the previous plagues that have come, the idea of Egypt, Israel being saved or separated from those plagues, that point isn't made. The scripture don't make that point. So we're able to assume that whatever it was that happened to Egypt happened to everybody in the land in terms of the blood, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of, here, what's the ones that we done seen so far? The first thing you know was the blood. First of all, before the blood even came, we see that that Moses just went and said, let my people go. And then Israel was consequenced just as a result of the request. Right? And so bad things happened to Israel, even by Moses just even going and saying, let my people go, before the plagues even happened, which made their work even worse. Right? It was bad already. And then just for the simple fact of there being a thought of a deliverer and deliverance to come, their situation was worsened. Let's see. So if we go back and see, after that was the waters turning to blood, right? First thing that happened was the waters turning into blood. So all the water turned to blood. So it don't talk about Israel being relented from or excused from this first plague. So they was just without water. That was something that lasted for a whole week, right? The second plague was the frogs. Frogs all over the place, right? Frogs here, frogs there, and then the magicians even made more frogs, right? So there was frogs all over the place. The third plague was the lice. Lice all over the place. All the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. All the dust became lice. But when we look over here now, in our verse over here, we see where it says, and in that day this day that these flies okay. Technical difficulties, but we're right back at it. Okay, so I wanted to look at verse 22, where we see over here where it says, I shall separate the land that they sever. This is our word right here. Right? To distinguish, to put a difference, to show marvelous, separate, set apart, sever, make wonderfully. Right? And so when we think about this idea over here, first of all, we think about the idea that there is a distinction that's made. A distinction that's made. Right? So you're able to know and be sure that you know a difference between Israel and Egypt. It's not something that has to be thought about or anything like that, right? A distinction, a difference is made.
That goes against the carnal mind right there.
What you mean?
Because the carnal mind don't want that distinction, separation between carnality and, you know, they want the that speaks to holiness, boundaries and borders. When you break that down, that's like profane. That's profaning.
Yeah, which is interesting because when you think about these swarms of flies, let's look at this here, right? Verse 22. Pull this up here. Making a separation. He's saving the people. He's letting the bad stuff happen to Egypt and not Israel, even though this land of Goshen is part of Egypt. But he's separating that land and he's separating that people. And so when we look now, it's interesting to look at the plague, though. The swarms of flies. Let me pull this up. Swarms of flies. Let's see here. Look at this word is arobe. Arobe. Which means a mosquito. From its swarming. You think about those little like how the little gnats and stuff, how you look in the summertime and you'll see like those little swarms of little flies, right? The little diverse sorts of flies and swarming, right? But look at this. Look at this. This is something right here. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, when you see this. Wait, let me pull up tools. Let me pull up the tools. When we pull up this word for flies and all types of flies, what word was that? That was 6157, which comes from this word, which is to braid, that is intermix, technically to traffic, intermingle, so on and so forth. Right. So this word right right here is the same, has the same root. The swarming word has the same root as the word erev, erev, which is that time of the mixture of the sun and the darkness, the light and the darkness. Right? And so the Most High is taking this idea and using it as a plague mixture. I mean, it's bugs, it's a physical representation of this other thing, right? But the swarms of flies is this picture of this mixture, this intermixture of light and dark. And he's putting it on the people as a plague. But it's not on Israel, though. They got separated out, so they're only one way. They're not a mixture of two kinds of ways, right? Which is pretty powerful, right? And so again, when we think about this idea of what needs to be going on with our relationship with our carnal mind inside of us, and that's speaking to our carnal mind and not pleading with your carnal mind, saying, please, can you just please just leave me alone? Can you please just let me do the things that I'm supposed to be doing? No, you going in there and you saying what it's going to be. You're not playing games with it. And you're being a matter of fact about it. Understanding that you're getting into a fight, but you're getting in a fight not with the idea of losing, but actually winning. And so again, when we think about what the Most High has done over here, he caused for there to be a difference. Israel don't look like Egypt no more. He made a distinction, right? Which helps us to be able to understand some things in terms of how our life should be even right now. If you sitting up here doing all the things that the world is doing, guess what? That's you right there. You are the world. If I'm looking at you and all the things that you do and all the things that you think is fun and all the activities that you indulge in, and it just looks just like carnality all over the place, then guess what? The proof is in the proverbial pudding, right? You keep shaking the tape. Okay, so we can't have this mixture of light and dark. The Most High gives this idea of the mixture of light and dark as a plague on the people. Let's look at this over here real quick.
I mean, it's hard to when you're working with people, when you're working with someone who has that mixture type of thing going on, it can be hard for them to even accept responsibility for their own, wickedness.
Yeah, because probably their mind is a mixture. And without that Ruach HaKodesh, you're not able to make the distinction in your own mind.
Always an excuse.
You don't know what's light and what's dark. You're not able to differentiate because the light ain't strong enough in you. And so what people have to get to the understanding of knowing is that when we get to know who the Most High is, the more we get to know him, the better we get to understand what light even is and what darkness even is. And being able to distinguish the difference between the two. But knowing that there is a difference, he makes a difference. He has made a difference between the one and the other. Right? Very important. Very important. Let's look over here Let's look over here. Let's see. Where we at? 5. 1, 5. Read it for us. 5 through 10.
And this is the message which we have heard from him and announced to you, that Elohim is light, and in him is no darkness at all. If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie.
You a lie.
And are not doing the truth. But if we walk in the light, and he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Yeshua, Messiah, his son, cleanses us from all sin. If we say that we have no sin, we are misleading ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is trustworthy and righteous to forgive us the sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness.
Okay, very good. So if we look at this now, again, we're thinking about the idea of this mixture of light and darkness, this swarming that shares the root of this word that gives us the idea of a mixture, a blend of light and darkness. We're seeing it from a physical perspective with these swarms of flies, right? And so when we look over here, where we see the apostle is saying over here, Elohim is light, and in him is no darkness at all. So if we say that we have fellowship with Elohim and walk in darkness, you a lie. That's a lie from the pit of hell. If you walking in darkness and saying that, you are in fellowship with him. And so again, there is a distinction. There's a separation between that which is right and which is wrong. And this is something that people fight against this. I'm not perfect. I'm just still growing. I'm still just trying to figure it out. That's what people say. Nobody's perfect. That's what people sit up there and say. But it says, if we say that we have fellowship with him and are in darkness, you sitting up here doing all of these things that I could look at and classify as darkness. And you saying that you in fellowship with the Most High, you a lie. That's what it says right there. And so people, we got to be able to figure these things out and speak to these things and tell these things, let my people go. Right? I mean, it's not like a mysterious thing over here. Like we can look and know we know what you're supposed to be doing and what you ain't supposed to be doing. I mean, if you going around saying that you love Yeshua and you love the Most High, and then every time I see you high, even though it rhymes with Most High, that's not something that you're supposed to be doing. That's darkness. Right? If all you do is hang around with a bunch of people that could only help you do wrongness, and there's no uncomfortability in that situation, then there's a problem. That's what he's saying over here, right? If I say that I have fellowship with him and I walk where I be at, the people who I surround myself with, the paths that that I find myself on, if those things is darkness, then I'm a lie. And I need to reevaluate my entire situation. It says we lie and we are not doing the truth. If that's your reality. If the places that you go, the people that you deal with, the things that you do are in darkness, and you saying that you have fellowship with him, right, you're darkness. Again, we think about the Torah portion. The Most High made a distinction. He needed to make a distinction for his own self so he know where to put the flies at. I got these ones over here. That's Israel over there. I'm going to let them be right there. And then even if some of them got out of the Goshen, you see, say I separated the land and the people. So maybe some people got out. Maybe they was over here, just over to the side a little bit. He made a separation between the Mitzrites and Israel so that they wasn't taken over by the plagues from this point forward. So the distinction is for us and for him to even know, right? Who I'm going to pour my wrath on. Am I going to pour it on Egypt or I'm going to pour it on Israel? I'm going to pour it on the ones that I separate and make a distinction with. And so if you walking around looking like Mizraim, then guess what? You getting the plague up on you because no distinction was made. No distinction was made. You look like the enemy, so you getting shot. And so it's two things that we could think about with this, right? We could think about the fact that first Israel got the plagues. First Israel was there, and then there wasn't no relenting from the plagues. The scripture don't talk about that. Right? So they went through some things. Israel did. Just like Egypt did. But to know that you was Israel, you was able to look at what's going on and be able to know that this is the Most High. This is Yahweh, Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and he's my Elohim. I want to align myself with him. And then so now you accept that distinction. And then once you get to that place of accepting that distinction, now you're able to look at the plagues happening over there and be free from them. But even just like with Israel, it didn't start out like that. It wasn't just so perfect, just even in the beginning. Right? Because a fight is like that. That's what a fight is. Before you begin to win the fight, you know, you got to take some blows first. But guess what? Once you get to a particular place in that fight, and again, we know that we're fighting with the creator of the universe. He's on our side. So, you know, you win that fight if you allow him to do the work that he wants to do in you. Right? Mm-hmm. So verse 7 said, if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Messiah, his son, cleanses us from all sins. So either we're going to allow Yeshua to cleanse us, or we're going to play games with it. And just have like take a little bird bath. Right? Either you're going to take a little bird bath or you're going to jump in the shower and let that spirit cleanse you all the way from all sin. Right? And so this is what we need to be doing again. So when we look at this, when we go back to the Torah portion, we look at these flies, right? It's giving you that picture of this intermixture, right? We got to flee from this intermixture. We can't be about this intermixture, right? We got to be able to recognize that the Most High is calling us out from something. He's calling us out from what's over there, where we was at already. We can't be out here doing the things that we been doing all of this time and still saying that we are followers of Yeshua. Well, meanwhile, we are not able to be distinguished from the world. The intermix of light and darkness. Either you light or you darkness. Either you hot or you cold. If you warm mixture, you get spit out. Right? Let's go back. Let's go back to Shemot. I mean, it's so easy, right? And it's something that you know that people well let's keep going, because there's more components. There's more components to this mixture situation, right? So if we look, let's see what Pharaoh does. Pharaoh does some interesting things that help us to see this idea of the mixture. It's interesting. This is a physical thing that's happening with these flies and with these swarms. But when we look at this thing, it's also clearly showing us the spiritual picture that we miss if we don't really look for the thing, right? So if we go down, let's see, verse 24. 25. If we go down to verse 25, let me see here. 8:25. Okay, verse 25. Pharaoh then called Moses and Aaron and said, "Go slaughter to your Elohim in the land." You want to sit up here and worship your Elohim so bad, just worship him where you at. He said, just worship him where you at. You don't got to go nowhere. Just worship him there. Why are you trying to leave for? He's like. And so when we think about this now, right, we think about this idea of intermixture, mixing the situation. I'm not going to give him my whole situation. I'm just going to give him a little bit. What I'm comfortable with, I'm going to give him that. The Most High is calling for his people to go and meet him in the wilderness. You willing to meet him, but maybe not in the wilderness. Right? You're just going to give him a little bit. Right? Moses say, it's not right to do that. That's not right. In fact, it's abomination. Right? And again, this is all connected with this idea of the mixture and the mixing, right? He don't want you to be with him and for him and about him the way that you want to be about it. He gonna tell you how he wants you to serve him, and that's it, right? He not saying you come on serve me, and you could just decide which way you want to serve me. Whichever way is most convenient for you, you serve me that way.
You didn't get Pharaoh that choice.
He don't give nobody that choice, right? He's not equal opportunity Elohim. You can't. He's not like who's the people that do it your way. Who's that? Burger King. He's not like that. He don't do it your way, right? He does it his way, right? And this is what we have to understand. This is what we had to be careful to understand, because we sit up here and we say that we following after Most High, but really we following after the Most High the way that we want to follow after him, and he never prescribed these things that we doing. Just like over here, when we look at Pharaoh saying, okay, fine, you want to worship him, good, just do it right where you at. We keep on going. We keep on going over here. 28. He say, 28. He say, all right, I'll let you go, and then you could go slaughter to your Elohim in the wilderness. Except, don't go too far. Don't go too far away. Moses already said, I need to go 3 days journey away. He already said where he had to be at. He said, no. Don't do it like that. Here, just go a little, just go like 1.5 days away. And just worship there.
People at the hospital, you tell them something, they just think you're not even really serious.
No, you just make up your own thing. And so we got to let this carnal mind know, because the carnal mind is going to be like, well, the carnal mind's and they're tempting you, right? The carnal mind going to tempt you. Adversary might tempt you if you some kind of important special individual that you got great power and influence over somebody, right? But other than that, it's just your carnal mind doing it to you. Hold on, you could all you gotta do is just go to your little Sabbath meeting that you're gonna have for the day, and then when you're done with that, you could do whatever you want. You got your Sabbath meeting out the way. You kept the Sabbath, go ahead and keep the Sabbath, sing your little praises, look at your little scripts, and then go do what you gotta do after that. It's all you. You fulfilled your own situation already. Right? That's what your carnal mind gonna tell you. But that's the same thing Pharaoh's like, man, just look. You could worship him just a little bit far away, but not too far. Not the place that the Most High want for you to do, right? Not too far, but don't appease him. Don't appease the Father. Appease me. He's still doing it. Pharaoh's still doing it. Don't give in to his wants and desires, the Most High's. Give in to my wants and desires. I still want you here. Don't go to. Just stay right over there. You can worship him. I don't care. I'll share. They polytheistic anyway. They don't care about just having one. They don't need that. They don't need that. You can have whoever you want. But you're gonna have me in addition to. You see? And that's what he's dealing with over here with Pharaoh. And that's what we deal with our carnal mind, right? Where your mind, your carnality wants to make concessions for your carnality that overstep the bounds of the Torah and the scriptures and the character of the Most High. The Most High don't live in these murky waters. He lets you know the things that he likes and the things that he doesn't like. And he don't want you to sit up here and make up your own way and say, well, that's good enough. When we could go over here in his word and in his scriptures and find something that goes against that. Over here, It's simple. He said, let my people go so they could go this 3 days journey in the wilderness and worship me. And Pharaoh was saying, I'll let you go, but just stay over there. Or I'll let you go, but don't go too far away. Compromise, mixture, right? In the midst of this mixture that's happening, he's perpetuating this spiritual mixture, right? And so we're seeing this picture of what needs not to be in our situation if we say that the Most High is our master, right? If we say that, it calls for us not to be the same, right? We can't be the same. Israel wasn't the same as Egypt, right? There was a distinction. There was a separation between Israel and Egypt. There was a separation between the requirements of the Most High on Israel and the requirements that Pharaoh wanted to put on Israel. Most High said, I'm going to keep you in the light. I'm going to keep you in the place that's clear of these flies and this mixture. Where the only place that Pharaoh and Egypt could even be was in the midst of the flies and the mixture. And so, we have to get to the place where we are literally striving and fighting with the intention on winning against our carnal mind and doing those things which are pleasing in the sight of the Most High in such a way that we are doing it with the idea of not only finishing but winning and obtaining this incorruptible crown, because we already did it the other way. You already did the other thing, right? You already lived a life in disobedience and iniquity already. Probably, if you anything like me, you probably was a professional at it. But the most I say, be a professional at this thing over here, right? Do this thing with the might and the intensity that you did that other thing that wasn't going to do nothing but land you in the lake of fire. When this thing over here is going to give you everlasting life. All right, let's go ahead on. Let's see here. Where we go to the end of 8. Let's go over to 9. Look at a couple verses over here. There's some plagues over there that we can look at that help us think about this idea some more, right? Let's see here. Let's read. Let's see here. Let's read. Go ahead and just read down to 21. Read from verse 1 down to 21. We'll go through it a little bit and then we'll go ahead and be done with this. Let's go over here real quick. Hold on, let me pull up these verses as soon as I can find my cursor. Oh, here it is. Hold on. Okay, read. Go ahead, start reading nice and loud.
Yahweh said to Moshe, "Go into Pharaoh and speak to him. Thus said Yahweh, Elohim of the
Go in there.
Hebrews, let my people go so that they serve me. For if you refuse to let them go and are still holding them, see, the hand of Yahweh is on your livestock in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the cattle, and on the sheep, of grievous pestilence. And Yahweh shall separate between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Mitzrayim, and let no matter die of all that belongs to the children of Israel. And Yahweh set an appointed time, saying, Tomorrow Yahweh is going to do this word in the land. And Yahweh did this word on the next day, and all the livestock of Mitzrayim died, but the livestock of the children of Israel did not die. Not one died. Then Pharaoh sent, and see, not even one of the livestock of Israel was dead, but the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not let the people go.
Here, let's stop right there. Let's stop right there and just think about this for a little bit. So when we think about this plague, right, we saw before with this whole thing with the flies, with the swarming things, right, which caused this darkness, which caused this this mixture, because you had these flies all over the place. So when we look over here at this plague here, this thing that happened to the livestock, a very grievous pestilence, it calls it over there in verse 3. You have these animals, all of the animals just die, right? All of their livestock in the field just dies. The horses, the donkeys, the camels, the cattle, the sheep, from this grievous pestilence. And so when we see this over here, we look at the fact that when we think about Egypt now, Egypt, they had this great reverence for animals. They had all types of different types of gods and things. You know, when you look at their deities, they would have their little human bodies with their little animal heads, right? Whether it was they had all types of different animal heads on their gods, right? And then so when we look over here and we see where the Most High kills their animals, all their animals, all the animals in the land he kills. He don't kill Israel's animals. They're because they've been separated, right? Because he made a distinction, right? But all their animals dead. And so when we think about one of the things that we could say that is represented with this particular plague of this very grievous pestilence is the idea of the Egypt's reverence for these animals. But we can also think about the idea of the animal self. The animal self, that part of us that is just led and guided by instinct and impulses and desires. This is something that we have to kill, that has to die. Again, if we're doing the things that's necessary to win the race, right? We got to kill the animal self, right? We as we again we think about 1 Corinthians, and that verse was 1 Corinthians chapter 9, where it talks about the idea of keeping our body in, right? That's the same thing we're talking about when we deal with the idea of killing the animal self, not allowing desires in our carnal that leads and guides us. There has to be a distinction between us and what is the thing that leads and guides you? Is it your carnal mind, or is it the Most High? If we say that we're followers of Yeshua, but yet we running around here looking like we just some lust-filled demons, then where's the separation? In our lives, we have to have allowed for this, what is this? This fifth plague to have taken place in our situation and caused that animal to die. That animal that's the animal that's connected to Israel, that one could live. Because now, once our intentions and our desires have been refocused to our master, now we got new things that we follow after. We got new things that we strive to be and do, not those old things that we let die already. And so when we think about this fifth plague over here, this plague of pestilence, this plague where all the animals died, it could cause us to think about the idea of allowing our animal self inside of us to die so that we can walk in victory with our master Yeshua. Okay, let's keep on going over here. We don't want to go too long today. Let's go back. Let's see. Go to verse 8.
And Yahweh said to Moshe and Aaron, fill your hands with ashes from a furnace, and let Moshe scatter it toward the heavens before the eyes of Pharaoh. And it shall become fine dust in all the land of Mitzrayim, and shall cause boils that break out in sores on man and beast in all the land of Mitzrayim. So they took ashes from the furnace and stood before Pharaoh, and Moshe scattered them toward the heavens, and they caused boils, breaking out in sores on man and beast. And the magicians were unable to stand before Moshe because of the boils, for the boils were on the magicians and on all the Mitzrayites. But Yahweh strengthened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not listen to them, as Yahweh had said to Moshe.
Okay, very good. So we see over here, plague number 6 is the boils. Boils, right? It sounds nasty, don't it? Boil. Okay, so when we think about these boils, right? This was something where we see something that proves to Pharaoh the might and the strength of Elohim, right? Because when all those other right, blood for water, these things that are happening around him that are affecting him. Pharaoh had a lot of things happen around him, and he had things and all of the things affected him. But until we see now the boils, now his actual body is being affected. right? Where he's able to physically see the might and the strength of the master. And so we see that when we think about this again, what the Most High is a master. He's the master over even the flesh. He's the master of the flesh as well. And so when we think about the fact that he's the master of the flesh, we sit up here and allow the flesh to be our master. When we're able to accept the master of our master, why we got a middleman in between, right? You don't need the middleman. You don't need to mess with the master when you could mess with the master of the master. When we think about again all the things, the pictures that we're seeing with the plagues being manifest over here, now we're talking about the body, which is not separate from the animal self, right? These things are intertwined with each other, right? Because the things that I want to do, the physical pleasures that I want to experience in my body, right? It's just based on things that's going on inside of my mind, because I know it's going to benefit my body, right? Just this combination of things that go on. All of these things that need to be put into subjection to the spirit of the master, Yeshua, that lives inside of us. All right. So when we look at these plagues that go against Egypt, that Israel has been separated from, it helps us to see, from various levels, the fact that the Most High, it not only is causing a distinction between his people and those who's not his people, but how he's doing it, the way in which he's doing it, which again is this connection to him, which is spiritual, right? Because Elohim is a spirit, right? And he wants to be worshiped. That's part of the declaration. He wants to be worshiped, but we know that he's spirit and he needs to be worshiped in spirit. So in order to be to worship him in spirit, there has to be this separation from the flesh, from the carnal mind, right? From this body, to move away from these desires that only lead to corruptible things, and changing that into desires that only lead towards incorruptible things. All the corruptible things, those things is all going to die. So he's just asking you to just get a head start on the death of those things. Just allow those things, just as you could let them things die now. They're going to die later for sure. But he's saying just go ahead and kill them now, because their fate's already sealed. Right? And when we do that, right, we're bearing witness with the truth that the Most High already said. He already said these things is going to die. They're going to wither away like the flower, right? So we have to be able to look forward and trust in what is to be. And that's what he's asking for Israel to do over in Egypt. You going through all of this stuff. I'm going through it with you, but you going through it too. But experience me saving you from all of these things. Experience me making this distinction between them and you, and experience my blessings and my goodnesses that I'm going to pour upon you. And then while you're experiencing it, look at the contrast and understand where you could be at over there with them. And then lastly, let's look over here at let's see, verse 13. Start reading at 13.
And Yahweh said to Moshe, "Rise early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh, and say to him, Thus said Yahweh Elohim of the Hebrews, Let my people go, so that they serve me. For at this time I am sending all my plagues into your heart, and on your servants, and on your people, so that you know that there is no one like me in all the earth. Now, if I had stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, then you would have been cut off from the earth. And for this reason, I have raised you up in order to show you my power and in order to declare my name in all the earth. You still exalt yourself against my people, in that you do not let them go. See, tomorrow, about this time, I am causing a very heavy hail to rain down, such as has not been in Mitzrayim from the day of its founding until now. And now bring your livestock to safety and all that you have in the field, for the hail shall come down on every man and every beast which is found in the field, and is not brought home, and they shall die. For those among the servants of Pharaoh who feared the word of Yahweh made their servants and livestock flee to the houses. But those who did not set their heart on the word of Yahweh left their servants and livestock in the field. Then Yahweh said to Moshe, Stretch out your hand toward the heavens, and let there be hail in all the land of Mitzrayim, on man and on beast, and on every plant of the field throughout the land of Mitzrayim. Then Moshe stretched out his rod toward the heavens, and Yahweh sent thunder and hail and fire, and fire came down to the earth. And Yahweh rained hail on the land of Mitzrayim. Thus there came to be hail and fire flashing continually in the midst of the hail, very heavy, such as has not been in all the land of Mitzrayim since it became a nation. And the hail struck in all the land of Mitzrayim, all that was in the field, both man and beast. And the hail struck every plant in the field and broke every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen where the children of Israel were, and there was no hail. Pharaoh then sent and called for Moshe and for Aaron, and said to them, I have sinned this time. Yahweh is righteous, and my people and I are wrong. Pray for Yahweh, for there has been enough of the thunder and hail of Elohim, and I am letting you go so that you stay no longer. And Moshe said to him, As soon as I go out to the city, let me spread out my hands to Yahweh, the thunder cease and the hail be no more, so that you know that the earth belongs to Yahweh. But as for you and your servants, I know that you do not fear before Yahweh Elohim. And the flax and the barley were struck, for the barley was in the head, and the flax was in the bud. But the wheat and spelt were not struck, for they were late crops. And Moshe went out of the city from Pharaoh, and spread out his hands to Yahweh, and the thunder and hail ceased, and the rain was not poured on the earth. And Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder had ceased, yet he sinned again, and he hardened his heart, and he and his servants. And the heart of Pharaoh was strengthened, and he did not let the children of Israel go, as Yahweh had said through Moshe.
Okay, very good. So again, when we look at Pharaoh, we talked about this the other week, where he shows us this false repentance. He shows us this thing where when he's in the midst of something, he'll gladly apologize, because he doesn't want the circumstances and the situation to be happening. He wants to be free from that. So he'll go ahead and be sorrowful, um, you know, in the midst of that. But as soon as the bad situation goes away, then so does his sorrow. And so we see that we see that over and over again with Pharaoh and his heart being strengthened. Right, his heart's strengthened because there's nothing happening. Right, these things happen, and then they go away, and then now he's able to be strong again because he don't have this adversity against him. But when we go back, and look at what's going on over here, we're able to see that the Most High, not only is he the master of the flesh, you see all that with the boils. When we look at this hell thing that's going on, we see that the Most High actually is able to. He's actually. It shows that he is supreme and master over nature as well. Right? It's not about a thing about changing, the water or causing for these animals or whatever to appear. But now he's doing something. He's causing the rain and hail and fire to come down from the sky. Right? He's showing his supreme power over everything. And, again, when we thinking about this from a spiritual perspective, it's important for us to, always understand that he is indeed supremely over everything. And having that understanding, it helps us in our walk because we know that we're not escaping him when we sit over here and we do this or that. You can't hide from the one who sees everything. Right? You can't hide from the one who's in control of everything. And we see with this plague over here, with this hail, with these raining down of fire and hail and all of these things. When you see what quote unquote nature is capable of doing, it gives you a scope and understanding of the one who made all of this stuff. Right? When you see a lightning strike, right? Not just hearing it, but just right over there, the power of that is immense. And hurricanes and typhoons and all of these things. But just to know that the Most High is behind all of those powerful things, these powerful things that we don't have any control over. Volcanoes, eruptions, earthquakes, where you can't stop it. There's nothing you can do but just brace yourself and wait for it to be over. When you think about the powerlessness that you have against these natural disasters, and then understanding that there's a creator who makes all of these things, and then even here he's ordaining these things and making them be right now on you. And then not only that, but this little pocket over here is safe from it on purpose. Right? It helps us to understand a little bit the scope of the power of our creator and his supreme power over everything, over all things, right? And so um we should be able to get to the place where we understand that, you know, if you say that you are a follower of Yeshua, then you can't be like you used to be. You can't be the same. He, first of all, he said that you're not the same, right? So by you being the same, you making the Most High into a liar, because he said you wasn't the same. So would you gonna argue with the Most High? He said you ain't the same, and you acting like you is the same. Who's right? Who's wrong? I'm saying don't be the same. Don't be the same, right? Be different, right? We can't be like the other. We can't be like Egypt because he called us out of Egypt. We have to be able to there has to be a distinction between us and the world. Because if we align ourselves with Egypt, then we align ourselves with what is in store for Egypt, which is all of these things over here. So again, you know, the Most High, he gives us a choice, right? We have a choice. We have a choice. You could choose right or you could choose wrong. But he makes it so that choosing right is the only logical thing to do.
Either you're going to partake in his light or you're going to partake in the mixture.
Yeah, which is death. Right? And so he makes it easy for us. He makes it easy for us. The choice. But understand that it is a fight. It is a fight. There's uncomfortableness involved. There's things that you know, in times where it don't seem like you win in the fight. Sometimes it might even seem like you lose in the fight. But we have to know and understand that when we trust in the Most High and put all of our faith in him and what he said he's going to do for us, understanding that he is indeed going to get us through to the other side, even though the road might be a bumpy road, right? But it's still we know that we still are able to be victorious and make it to the other side if we trust in him and understand that he is there for us every step of the way. And so, you know, we have to you know, allow for that distinction to be, and not be enticed by those things that those shiny things that Egypt wants to dangle out in front of us. Because when we think about, again, we think about looking at these plagues, the Most High is tearing all of the things down, all of the things that that Egypt looks to for strength and protection and guidance is being taken down step by step one at a time by the Most High. He's showing Egypt and the people who's in control. And so when we're able to really understand and accept the fact that the Most High indeed is in control, our it affects how we it affects our existence. That understanding of knowing that He is over everything. That's Pharaoh never got to that place of knowing that he was over everything. Well, maybe he did, right? When he sat there with his firstborn in his hands, dead. Right? But the Most High don't want for us to have to go through all of that. He just wants for us to look and know who He is and choose Him and all the goodness that He has for us if we would just choose to be His. Okay? All right, so that's what we talking about, right? Don't be the same. And I think that Yosef wants for us to be done with this for now, right? So, we looked at what we're going to look at. Y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat and look at some more things and see how, through these scriptures, how we're able to draw closer and get a better understanding of who the Most High is and His character that He has for each and every one of us to be walking out. Okay, so that being said, we're going to say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And we'll see you next time.